Good afternoon, I'm Lauren McCoy.
And I'm Meg Gatto. New developments out of a story we've been following. Plaquemines Parish issues a new warning about high levels of salt in part of its water system.
Take a look at this map. According to the Army Corps of Engineers' latest readings, the saltwater wedge in the Mississippi River is about 10 miles away from the Belle Chase Braithwaite water plants. And as Andres Fuentes reports, if something isn't done quickly, some people in Belle Chase say they will have to leave.
Here in South Plaquemines, many people tell me that for those people upriver who are worried about the saltwater intrusion, all they have to do is look and see what it did to their communities. Here in Buras, since April, washing hands, bathing, and even preparing food has all come with health concerns. Over at the Black Velvet, staff have been without ice, soda machines, and only relying on bottled or canned drinks as a precaution. They've also had to buy more than 100 pounds of ice daily just to keep up with their service.
Most of the people are ready to move. We're ready to get out of here. My wife's house shopping today. Everybody wants out. I mean, you can't live like this. We have enough issues with internet and mail and different other things, and honestly, they can't keep up the basic amenities like water.
Up the highway in Alliance, produce stands say that they are counting down the days until they no longer have access to fresh water. They get water in from a water intake over in Belle Chase. Emergency officials say by the first week of October, all drinking water from that section of the Mississippi River will be contaminated.
The younger trees that they do have to water, they'll use the river water, but yeah, it'll have some effect on them, sure.
Parish and state officials say they will continue to bus in fresh water for communities that need it, but they do worry what it will look like if and when the entire parish is without easy access to drinking water. And speaking with doctors and many medical experts on the topic, they tell me that regular consumption of salt water could lead to dehydration, and any severe cases could lead to death. But for now, reporting here in Buras, Andres Fuentes, Fox 8, Local First.